I'm sure you've already heard about this game, or even played the game already. I didn't even get to finish, what the hell? What have I gotten myself into? Welcome to your next daily dose of Ultrakill. The water sure is deep around here. Probably know about this game already too. Ultrakill is a boomer shooter, but instead of fitting in with the classics, it takes out a dose of Adderall and drags you with it. Ultrakill is a really special case in its genre, and while there are a lot of games like it nowadays, Ultrakill was the one to spark new life into it. There's a reason why this is one of the highest rated games on Steam, and it's still in early access too, meaning that the game has more room to grow as well. And while it is painful to wait for a big update to happen, seeing this game change and grow right before your eyes is really cool to look at. The first big update that I really saw get added was the violence layer in Act 3, which was just late last year. If you haven't tried the game out for whatever reason, why? There is a demo of the game that gives you just enough to see what this game has. In fact, it's what really convinced me to buy the game. Seeing videos on how good this game is one thing, but actually playing it really shows it. Try the demo out. It's not that long, and you'll be part of the development history this game has. So how did this game come to exist in the first place? Well, it all starts with the developer. Hakita Ultrakill, or his nickname RC Patala, is a Finnish, of course he's Finnish, developer who is the main brain behind Ultrakill. There would be no Ultrakill without Hakita. Now, Hakita was a loner who wasn't interested in sports because, in quote,
I want to play some fucking games, man.
being a big fan of platformers such as Crash Bandicoot, which you can definitely see the reference in. Okay, that's a little too direct of a reference. He eventually became interested in making games when he got his first PC, so he tried out Game Maker. Game Maker is a game development software that was created in late 1999. However, Hakita eventually ran into a problem. Much like most kids who game as a hobby, we don't really know what to do in life. So presumably after high school, he decided to pursue game development since he didn't go to music or film school, going on to really enjoying it and deciding, this is what I want to do. Now, how did Ultrakill come up? Well, when Hakita was developing a game with his friend from a previous school, they had someone test it out, which the person played for a minute, turned around, and said, this isn't fun, throwing Hakita into a spiral of doubt. The game he was making had cool ideas, but seeming cool is different from actually being cool. At the end of the day, people play games to have fun.
And I've never thought to myself that realism is fun. I go play games to have fun.
It's the core reason why games exist. Even shit ones. So Hakita went back to the drawing board, and after brainstorming, he decided his best course of action would be to go back to the basics. Hakita thought to himself, what makes a game fun? Over-the-top gore, cartoony physics, difficulty, action, movement, and finally, style. With all of this thought out, Hakita finally began his first commercial project. And so Hakita just mashed every game he liked into one thing, and it was pretty cool. Ultrakill, while being a boomer shooter, plays completely different compared to other FPSs. The most similar in terms of FPS is Doom Eternal, but even I'd say that's a stretch. In Hakita's own words, the closest you can get is Devil May Cry, a game that focuses heavily on combos and style. Hakita deciding to scrape Untraceable and instead create a new game has to be one of the best decisions in gaming. And this is technically his first official project too, which does make me a bit worried, but also excited at the future games he makes. Imagine a platformer based on Ultrakill's movement. You can already see hints of this with people speedrunning to the end by blasting off with nukes. As a developer, he's already one of the best for this very simple mindset. Not what makes money, but what makes it enjoyable. He even says that if you can't afford the game, then just pirate it. He even supports other games that are like or even copying Ultrakill. After all, Ultrakill, while being really cool, is still heavily inspired by other games. So it wouldn't be fair to judge a game based on Ultrakill when it itself has been based on other games. Okay, I think we've discussed enough, and while we could talk about Hakita's bloodline, let's just stick to what we know currently. But before we get into Ultrakill Act 1, I want to talk about Hakita's other hobby for a bit. Now, if you look up any of Ultrakill's soundtrack, you've probably seen the name Heaven Piercer. Heaven Piercer is Hakita's band that only consists of him. It's also pretty catchy to say. Hakita's been creating music for as long as he's been making games, some music even predating Ultrakill, releasing an album back in 2013, and to be honest, it's pretty good. If you've listened to Ultrakill's music, then you can tell that's very breakcore heavy, but you'd be surprised by how many other songs are a lot more different compared to his popular ones. His other tracks being heavily inspired by other bands like Bull of Heaven and Body 13, which you've probably never heard of, and don't worry, I did as well. Bull of Heaven and Body 13 consist of tracks that are not only extremely long, but also have this droning sound as well. Almost like ambience in a desolate world. If you're familiar with the genre of post-rock, then you can get an idea on how his songs are. Most of his songs are more of a build-up, almost like listening to a story. But there's no lyrics, so you really have to use the song name and music to form your own story. Now, if I'm being honest, I don't really care about deep meaning within music, but I can respect the amount of time it goes into making a song that really makes you feel something. Honestly, please check out his other tracks, and especially his old ones. If you're not a fan of over 30-minute songs, which I don't blame you, then here are some shorter ones that give off that Ultrakill vibe, but also something a bit new. He even has a secret channel, which I feel really awkward about, since it's called Red Herring, and I'm revealing it. But hey, it'll be our little secret. We'll be like a sub-community within the sub-community. Anyway, enough about Hakita, alright? Who gives a fuck about him? We care about the game he made, alright? How long has it been anyway? Oh, alright, let's just get into the game, okay? On second thought, we won't be doing that. Just hold for a moment. Thinking about it now, I actually didn't really go into detail about Red Herring. I really just mentioned it at the very end. And I would explain more, but all I can really say is that this is a secret channel that has a lot of Hakita's older songs on it.
I have no friends, I'm from Finland, I'm an alcoholic.
If you want to learn more about Red Herring and also Hakita's older music, you could either just, well, listen to the music, or watch Immortal's video on it. Immortal does a way better job at presenting the tracks Hakita's made over the years, and also plays samples of them as well. Hakita has also commented on his video, which means it's Hakita approved, and also gives you some more hidden details. Also, quick heads up, if you want to watch more of his videos, then most of them are going to be in Russian. Anyway, aside from that, let's finally dive into Ultrakill Act 1.
Status update. Machine ID, E1. Location, approaching hell. Current objective, find a weapon. Mankind is dead. Blood is fuel. Hell is full.
These 3 words are the basis of your story. In the world of Ultrakill, humanity is a lot more advanced than we are, creating machines and weapons that fuel themselves during World War I. In fact, World War I would end up becoming the last war, dubbed the Final War. Humanity being so advanced, they ran into a problem thanks to this speed. Fuel. This was especially a problem during the Final War, as fuel resources were quickly being used up to supply machines and weapons, so humanity desperately thought of other ways to fuel their supplies. And in that moment of weakness, they broke a taboo. And it worked! Humanity began making great strides in technology. War machines became much more advanced, too advanced to the point where other countries would outclass each other every month. So then other countries would build machines that counter those machines, and then they would respond back. A back and forth of blood, metal, and suffering on both sides. Machines becoming so advanced that humans would become mortals to their man-made gods, desperately clinging to them for survival and destruction. And this all accumulated to the new peace. After hundreds of years of war, humanity began the new peace, a concept that had been thought to be forgotten. In this era, humanity tried their best to repair and reconnect whatever was left. They created machines for the sole purpose of making the world better, and even created a machine that would reinforce this peace. For the first time in all humanity, what was left of it was united. But once again, they made one fatal mistake. Through their attempts of repairing the world, they found it. A labyrinth of terror and damnation. What was thought to be stories to some and the afterlife to others. What was found was
Connection terminated.
There's a reason why this intro is so iconic. The lead up to the drop and immediately being thrown into action with this simple breakcore and guitar beat in the background, it's a great way to start a level. Into the Fire is the first level track you hear, and it does a great job at showcasing what the music for this game will be like. Now, per tradition for this channel, we gotta rank something, because it's a trend I've set, and I can no longer stop it from happening.
You to hang up that computer call, come over here and kiss me on my hot mouth. I'm feeling romantical.
I could probably manage to put a tier list in a vision level somehow. So we'll be ranking only the songs throughout the video. And I'll only say this once, these are my opinions, so if you don't like it... With this, let's just rank Into the Fire, and I think it's a solid B. The beginning is of course iconic, but afterwards it does fall off with most of it sounding the same. Anyway, from the beginning, you're taught the basics of the game. This mini tutorial basically tells you everything. For movement, you're given 3 options. Dashes, sliding, and wall hopping.
I forgot to mention ground slamming. If you press the slide button mid-air, you'll slam into the ground. If you time your jump after slamming, you'll go higher.
Now you can actually do a lot with these, but we're not at that level yet. Imagine yourself as a 10-year-old who just bought the game. Dashes give you a quick burst of movement while also give you iframes. During this quick moment, you're pretty much untouchable. You get 3 charges, and while it can recharge, it is kinda slow, so use them wisely. Sliding allows you to... Okay, you're not that dumb. I'm bumping up to 13. Sliding is faster than walking, but its movement is also a lot more restricted and has no iframes. So it's better to use while traversing levels rather than fighting, unless you want to look extra cool.
Savage!
This doesn't mean it's useless though, and it'll probably be your main movement option once you learn a couple of things. And then finally, wall hopping. Yep, you're allowed 3 wall hops before falling, but even if you stay on the wall, you'll actually just slowly slide down. Each of these movement options, while seeming simple and easy to understand, actually have layers of hidden utility underneath, and you're going to be seeing that a lot later. Now shut up and go to school. Now, your health. Healing in this game is easy to understand. Remember the phrase, blood is fuel? Well, guess what? By drenching yourself in the blood of enemies after damaging or killing them, you'll absorb their life force and gain some health back. This is the only way to heal in the game, by the way, so I hope you're not doing a pacifist run. Wait, what? However, you can't just walk around and shoot at things point blank. This gray bar will appear in your health bar. This is hard damage, and this is your cue to start dodging attacks. Hard damage reduces your maximum health, so even if you infinitely absorb blood, if your max health is 1, then lifesteal doesn't really seem that useful here. Now, how do you get rid of this hard damage? Well, that transitions perfectly into the next segment, style. Now, normally style would just be looking cool for a montage or videos to upload on Reddit so that people can glance at your P rank video and immediately scroll down. Not in this game. In Ultrakill, style is your life now. Whenever you kill something, you'll get a grade. Usually it would be F, but because this game is nice to you, you get a D. Now obviously this can increase. The highest being Ultrakill. Getting high style points will reduce the amount of hard damage you have, eventually getting rid of it. However, if you get hit, you also lose style, so don't get hit. Obtaining style points isn't hard, it's maintaining that makes it difficult to balance. Now, if you're just looking to reduce hard damage, then you don't really need to do much. Just a couple kills and maybe a little quick swap, and you'll be near full health again. But if you're cool and want to get the best rank possible, start killing stylishly. Also, don't die, because this will basically fuck your style up entirely. Plus, this annoying skull laughs at you.
Oh my motherfucker!
At the end of each level, you'll get a grade based on how stylishly you were, whether that's time, kills, or, well, style. Anyway, that should be about it for the basics. Other than these blue orbs, it's just secret collectibles.
My ears,
I'm sure most of you already know about this, but for that one person living in the mountains, this one's for you. Now then, let's be clear. You are not in hell yet. You're just approaching it. What you're experiencing is just the beginning of the entrance. It's not known how much of this is the structure of hell, or has been modified by humanity. Either way, for some reason, some denizens from hell have either escaped or are protecting it. Like the Filth, who basically represent every comment on Twitter and Instagram.
You, justify your happiness to me, right now!
No, thank you.
To beat me, no!
The Filth are manifestations of sinners that were sent to hell to suffer eternally, becoming husks. I can't say husks, you're just gonna have to deal with that. Becoming husks of their former selves. Husks are split into 3 categories: lesser, greater, and supreme husks. The appearance of these husks is based entirely on the soul of the human. However, if a soul is too weak or is irrelevant, then they basically turn into this. Being so incompetent that they can't even manifest a complete body and have the lowest intelligence of all husks, driven purely by instinct and hunger. Which, yep, definitely makes sense. Alright, listen, these boys set the ground, okay? The Filth walked so Minos Prime could run. They're incredibly easy to deal with, but they're trying their best, okay? Also, they are surprisingly annoying in brutal difficulty. We also get introduced to the Stray. Strays may have stronger souls and a complete body, but their intelligence is still relatively low. With this low intelligence and instinct, they're able to conjure hell energy to throw attacks at you. Humans have tried to replicate this energy, but have failed to reach even the Stray's level of control, particularly the Stray's ability to avoid attacking other allies. They're also cowards. With their range attacks, they do pose a bit of a problem, but there's an easy solution to this. Whenever you punch an attack, you'll reverse it back and deal twice the amount of damage. If it's specifically a projectile, then it'll explode. Parrying is a core part of Ultrakill, and if you want to get good at the game, get ready to parry almost anything on screen. It also heals you and replenishes your dashes, so even if you parry and miss, you still get benefits by doing it. By the way, I won't be talking too much about the level design, unless I have a very strong opinion about it. The reason being is that this game is incomplete, and Hakita is redoing most of the levels. Anyway, at the very end of this level, there's a door with a skull. I ain't gonna sugarcoat it. These are boss doors. These doors are basically assigned to get your shit together, and going through, we're introduced to the first boss in this game. The Malicious Face, or Maurice, don't ask why he's called that, is a boss that serves as a tutorial to basically pay attention to every attack. If for some reason you forgot how to parry or move, then you're just gonna get barraged to death.
I don't remember. It went. Oh!
However, if you know how to use your brain, then this fight is trivially easy. Maurice here, while seeming intimidating with his health bar, serves more as a tutorial on parrying and specifically timing parries. After beating him up, he'll do this charge move. On its own, you can dodge it pretty easily. However, if you instead decide to jump towards it, you can wait for this yellow flash to appear, signaling to parry it. These yellow flashes will appear a lot in boss fights and also elite enemies. It's just a nice indicator to know when to parry. Now, after destroying the sad excuse of a boss, we move on to the second level, and yes, I'll talk about Maurice later. Descending deeper towards hell, we move on to the second level, Meat Grinder. Oh, what's this? These are terminals, computers that were programmed here and assumably left behind after humanity died. Terminals will be at the start of every level or boss fight. You can use them to switch weapons, buy different variants of weapons, and also find out about enemy weaknesses and their lore. Which, with our newly acquired pistol, we can find out more about it. Oh yeah, I forgot to talk about the pistol. It shoots fast and you can charge it up to make it stronger and pierce enemies. The pistol was created during the final war as a way to ensure a way not to waste any valuable resources on things like bullets. So they managed to use electrical pulses to shoot tiny pieces of metal at very high speeds, creating a new standard called electric guns. Despite the ammo seeming infinite, it actually isn't. However, it takes weeks for the original ammo to run out completely, but you can simply just pick up shards of metal off the floor to supply it once again, making it extremely self-sufficient. Some people would even scrape their own guns to resupply their weapons. In fact, if you did this to your gun to the point where it's anorexic looking, it would actually be a symbol of pride for them. Let me tell you, the US military would love this. The revolver is your simple bread and butter weapon for the beginning, and yes, this is the Gmod sandbox map. It has decent range, a strong and fast charging ult fire, as well as high skill ceiling with the ability to headshot, dealing twice the amount of damage. However, the basic revolver variant, while good for the beginning, will soon be replaced with better weapons. The piercer can also get boring after a while. But that's why we have variants. Each weapon in this game has its own variants, splitting into different colors. The colors don't mean much, it's just a way to differentiate them. First, the green variant, and also Ultrakill's most iconic weapon, the Marksman. The Marksman is both simple yet complex at the same time. And the reason being is this. Coins. Coins are the most complex mechanic in Ultrakill, since there is so much you can do with this tiny thing. At its base, shooting the coin allows you to ricochet the bullet off of it and auto-aim onto a weak point like the head. You get 4 coins to throw out, and the more coins you throw, the more damage it stacks. The coin also has different properties based on how long it's thrown. If you throw and shoot it immediately, it will just do its regular thing. However, if you wait a bit for a ding, or when it falls towards the ground, then you can create a split shot. Split shots split the bullets into 2 that will attack different enemies, though the split shots cannot target the same target. Now, this is already getting pretty complex, but what if you could punch the coin?
Whoa, 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 hey, 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 hey!
This is where this little thing becomes a tool to slay gods.
Call it.
Tails.
Coin punching does exactly what it says and allows you to punch the coin to attack a weak point. Well, what's the point in this? You can just shoot it. Well, coin punching allows the coin to bounce up after hitting an enemy, resetting the air time and allowing it to be punched again. And again. And again. But this seems pretty unnecessary.
Why am I doing this?
And under normal circumstances, you'd be mostly right. But the true value of coin punching comes from the damage multiplier. Punching the coin each time allows the damage to be increased, to the point of even destroying bosses, which I'll be showing you later. Not by my hands though. I suck at coin punching. Now at this point, it's getting kinda ridiculous. Like, all these mechanics for a fucking coin seems a bit too much. However, it gets deeper. In this next segment, I'll be naming some things you can do with the coin. You can use the piercer alt fire on it. Rail coin, which is my favorite. Add more coins while firing at the coin to deal more consistent damage. Orbital coin strikes. Yes, you can make orbital strikes with this thing. And finally, yes, I know there's more, but let's keep it short. Chargeback. I'll explain chargeback since it's relatively easy to understand. Chargeback isn't used on many enemies except ones that will, well, charge an attack. Maurice can charge an attack and fire it off, and while you could parry that attack, what you could do instead is this. This is a consistent way to get rid of Maurice's, because spoiler alert, they're coming back. The key to this though is timing, since doing it too late or early will just result in a giant explosion in your face. The best thing to do if you're a beginner is to throw out a bunch of coins as it's about to fire. It only takes 1 coin to work. There is another enemy that can also be countered by this, but they appear in Act 2, so we don't have to worry about that for now. Okay, now, the red variant. Thankfully, this variant is a lot more simpler than the green one, By simply spinning your revolver at its max charge, you can fire it off and it'll ricochet off walls. The max amount of bounces it can do is 3. And that's it. That's all you need to do for this. Not fucking rail coining, not orbital coin strikes. It just ricochets off walls. You get 3 charges and you can only use 1 at a time, but it excels greatly in enclosed areas. In areas where there's a lot of room or even a skybox, it's alright. With the right situation, it can even outdamage the Piercer ult fire, but its uses are definitely a lot more niche. You can use coins on it, but it does fuck all. Like, just don't waste your time. Unlike what it used to do. Though the best part about this weapon is its ability to shoot enemy projectiles and cause red explosions. Oh god, another mechanic I need to explain. Okay, you got your basic bitch explosions. Then afterwards you get yellow, more radius and damage. And then finally, red explosions, which are essentially mini nukes being thrown around. This can not only clear out a bunch of ranged enemies, but also is a good way to counter Maurice. Anyway, that's all for the pistols, let's just get on with it. Level 2, Meat Grinder. It is filled with many environmental hazards, including hydraulic crushes and, of course, meat grinders.
Die, you motherfucker! Well, see, yeah, it wasn't an instant kill move.
I'm assuming this was already here, because otherwise, what the hell is humanity adding all this shit here for? While passing through, we get to see an unknown machine destroy some husks. Clearly, this guy's in the same situation as us. This is the Swords Machine, a machine like you that you'll be fighting later. There ain't enough room for the 2 of you. Each boss other than that one Maurice has this cool build up to it, showcasing who or what they are and also what they're capable of. The Swords Machine in particular showing us that you're not the only one with the goal of clearing out hell and gathering blood. While every other machine is different, their goals still remain the same. Blood is fuel and hell is full. You can also fight it early in this level through a secret encounter, but who cares about that? Speaking of secrets, after seeing the Swords Machine for the first time, look up to find this opening. In it is a blue skull. Picking it up and encountering the Swords Machine again, take the left door and a wall will open up. Go down, and now you've unlocked the first secret level. There will be at least 1 secret level per section, and each dives into a different type of game. You'll see what I mean in a second. For the Prelude, we get the scariest horror game I've ever played. Listen, I fucking hate horror games, and this nearly made me shit my pants.
911, who is it?
In fact, I'll basically play my whole experience of it.
Oh, shit. Oh my god, I actually didn't think I was gonna do that. Holy fuck. Man, that shit's easy!
All I can say is, when you hear it, don't rush forward. Reaching the end, and you'll find a terminal with an interesting entry on it. Testament 1. Mankind is a failure. Free will is a flaw. Let the evil of their own lips consume them. Then I shall begin again with my word as law. It's unknown as of who said this, however, going by the phrasing of the words as well as the testament, we can presume that this is God's words. In this world, God seems to be extremely dissatisfied with mankind's actions, and who can blame him for that? It seems this version of God, though, takes inspiration from the Old Testament, a side of God which showed how brutal he can be. We'll see in later secret levels what happened and what's going on with this world in general. Moving on to the third level, Double Down. In this level, we're introduced to a new enemy called the Schism. Schisms are greater husks that are the result of 2 souls manifesting in the same body, creating this abomination. Thanks to this fusion, they're a lot more tanky than other husks, but also are really unstable. They have higher output of hell energy, but have no means of controlling this. Unless you're on brutal difficulty, where Hakita says, yeah, fuck the lore, they can control it. Honestly, not that much of a threat, since their aim is so wild, but they are really tanky, and shooting projectiles all over the place is still a problem. While we're here, let's talk about the music for a bit. I like it. To me, it's a slight upgrade to Into the Fire, with a lot more intense beat to it. Also, the guitar riff is so damn good in this. It does suffer from loop syndrome, but it's got such an addictive beat. I think it's better than Into the Fire, but not by that much. While exploring, we run into a collapsed rock. There's no way we can get through here, so moving on the other way, we find a skull door. And who else is in here other than the swords machine? The swords machine has 2 modes. In the current mode, he has a shotgun you can parry, but it's kinda tricky to do.
Did I just get baited by a fucking bot?
It also has sword slashes that you can parry as well. Now that I think about it, you can pretty much parry everything he does. Like Maurice, who taught you how to pay attention and also time it, Swords Machine teaches you how to do this on the fly. He has a lot of moves where if you time your dashes or parries wrong, he'll get you. Also, parrying comes at a cost.
You're so fucking dead.
Enraging him, where he attacks faster. It's a good way to practice not only parrying, but also dodging as well. His first phase isn't that difficult, and after losing an arm, he'll retreat. And then you can pick up his shotgun. And now I'm going to take 20 minutes to explain every mechanic the shotgun has. Just kidding, the shotgun isn't actually too complex. Its lore basically explains how the shotgun is a heat-type weapon that allows the gun to be fired infinitely, but it does have a cooling factor to it. Nothing too interesting, but neat. Also, this whole cooling factor thing can be completely negated. You'll see how. The blue variant's alt fire is basically a grenade launcher. You can actually shoot the core with a revolver to cause a mini red explosion. Just a good way to clear out enemies, as well as propel yourself 60 miles per hour. The green variant, and also one of my favorite guns in the game, is the pump charge. The pump charge allows you to, well, charge an attack. Each shot does more damage, and at its max, it'll cause an explosion that does half your health, but it does a shit ton of damage as well. It's very risky to fire off, but if you dash just as you fire, you can iframe it and effectively take no damage from this. It's simple, yet powerful, but also takes timing. And then we have the sawed-on shotgun. I don't like it. The sawed-on shotgun, as its name suggests, has a chainsaw. This chainsaw acts as a melee weapon that does alright damage. It's also good for healing, but you can just shoot it with a shotgun. By letting go of the alt fire, you can fire the chainsaw off. It's still being attached, and it'll come right back to you, and if you punch as it hits your face, you can send it forward again, creating this infinite and annoying loop. It does good damage, but I really just think it's a hassle to have this thing constantly in your face, especially with how chaotic escape gets. Also, you can parry your bullets. You know this already. It's pretty iconic since it's such a cool feature. It was literally a bug and Hakita was like, yeah, this is cool, we're keeping it. Shotgun parrying can get hard to get used to, but once you do, oh my god, it's fun. Since parrying projectiles cause an explosion, you get this almost hit scan like weapon. It will pretty much become your primary once you get used to it. This is doubled down with the addition of shotgun swapping. I could have mentioned this for pistols, but it's way more useful for shotguns. Now, as the lore suggests, shotguns have a delay after firing, but you can completely get rid of this by swapping the other variant. This is weapon swapping, and if you're swapping so fast to the point where you're cutting out the sound, then you've reached the pinnacle of gameplay design. Shotgun swapping is just a nice and consistent way of dealing burst damage. The sound design for these weapons are phenomenal. Well, except the chainsaw bursting my ears. Hearing that meaty hit each time you fire off, only to quickly fire again, is so damn fun. So with shotgun parrying and swapping, you've essentially covered both range and loser quarters. What the hell does loser quarters mean? Why did I put that down? I think I meant to say close quarters, but I put loser. No, there's had to be a reason why I put loser quarters there. Why did I put that down? Is that a joke? I legitimately forgot. Anyway, the shotguns are goated. That's all you need to know. And with the blue shotgun's alt fire, we can break through the rocks that are blocking us. And after massacring husks back to back, the swords machine tries to get his run back with us. This time with one arm and no shotgun, because we ripped it off.
Wait.
In this phase, he focuses more on melee attacks, but does occasionally throw his sword out, which you can parry or dodge, and he'll have no way of attacking for a bit. Nothing that different compared to his first, to be honest. The swords machine is a greater machine and is also a trendsetter with a big ass forehead.
Why the fuck did you make it so damn big? Seriously, why is it so huge?
The original form is completely unrecognizable after years of scrapping and rebuilding itself to deal with the denizens of hell. However, among its counterparts, this one is famous for its strength and appearance, creating many copycats of it, and yes, this means Swords Machine will become a regular enemy like Maurice later on. Very later on though. Also, it's one of the very few machines capable of having vocals. A fun boss to fight, especially when you have the parry mechanics down. And with that, we have the end of the level. 0-4 is pretty much the penultimate level that challenges you before the final boss. You'll basically face almost every enemy you've encountered during these levels, and it's also the level where Maurice gets introduced. These guys are our first demons, and also, just like Huss, have the same ranking system. Maurice is a lesser demon, being born from the massive hell and having a stone-like exterior. This stone appearance is a common look for demons in Ultrakill, so if it's made out of rocks, it's a demon. Maurices do have higher intelligence than Huss, but are still incapable of rational thought. And while they appear to be floating, they actually have translucent spider legs. Why? I don't know, man. Also, fun fact, you can kill enemies with Maurice. Other than the debut of Maurice, there really isn't anything else to talk about here. So let's quickly move on to the final level of Prelude. Here we are, the climax before reaching hell. The atmosphere feels heavy, and one wrong step can lead to death. Well, as you walk in, you notice the big door in front of you. Abandon all hope, ye who enter here. This is Cerberus, the Guardians of Hell. And if you've connected the dots, then you'll know every statue you've seen that looks like this is actually Cerberus. For whatever reason, they've laid dormant. I assume the reason being is that you aren't an actual threat to hell yet. Well, until now. Cerberus, as you can tell, is a demon, and while not looking like the mythological counterpart, the name was given to them because of their nature to protect hell, dropping the fact that these are just names given to enemies. So someone saw this thing and immediately decided to name it Filth. Which, goddamn, that is me as hell.
Archimedes! No! It's filthy in there.
Cerberus isn't that hard. The only thing that really makes this challenging is the enclosed arena. As long as you're patient, which I'm going to be saying that a lot because that's the key, then they should serve no problem. The game does decide to throw a bone at you and make the other statue fight as well. It's only when you kill one that the fight actually becomes difficult, being enraged and attacking a lot faster. The music adding even more intensity by ramping up more. Which in the moment is really intense, but outside the fight, it's just the Into the Fire drop but looped over and over again. I'm gonna have to give it a D. I like the drop, but not to the point of listening to it over and over again. Defeating Cerberus opens the door, and if you know the quote on it, then you'll have an idea on what we're getting into. Abandon all hope, ye who enter here, is a direct reference from Dante's Inferno. Specifically what Dante sees right before he enters hell. Dante's Inferno being a part of a trilogy series called the Divine Comedy. The Divine Comedy was written by Dante as a way to cope with his expulsion from Italy, which he was charged with corruption and financial wrongdoings, aka taxes.
I don't care who the IRS sends, I am not paying taxes.
Dante's whole journey in Divine Comedy revolves around understanding God and his creations, why hell, purgatory, and heaven exists. And Dante's Inferno, in particular, is both hilarious and horrifying to read through, which you can watch Wendigoon's video for that.
Hey everyone, today we are talking about the funniest thing in the world, people dying.
And Ultrakill takes heavy inspiration from this by using its layer hell system. In Dante's Inferno, hell is divided into 9 layers, each layer representing a sin and the punishment you receive for said sin. And each layer gets worse and worse, well except for the 4th pit in layer 8, unless you're Dante. The layers go by Limbo, Lust, Gluttony, Greed, Wrath, Heresy, Violence, Fraud, and Treachery. And in Ultrakill, we will be going through all these layers, each layer obviously being inspired by what happens in Dante's Inferno, but with Hakita's flair to it. So as we go through each layer, I'll be commenting on the similarities between Inferno and Ultrakill. Also, Ultrakill was inspired by Devil May Cry, and who are the 2 main characters in Devil May Cry? Anyway, V1 finally reaches hell, and soon will begin its massacre. Limbo, the first layer of hell and the first experience of eternal damnation. What horrors await for us here? Welcome to hell. This is Limbo, the first layer of hell, and as normal as it looks, it's actually pretty accurate to the original one depicted in Inferno. The sinners that reside in Limbo in the original were good people who existed before Christ, or people who just didn't believe in him. And as it looks, nothing really bad happens here. Physically, no pain is being inscribed onto you, and you would just live normally, as you would on Earth. The only difference is that this is where you'll be for the rest of time. Now mentally is a different case, being in the constant state of nothingness where you aren't experiencing pain nor paradise. Just living. but this time with no desire to do anything worthwhile and go on as the day passes, which in a way is torture. And we'll see how Hakita uses this concept to show just how cruel this layer can be. Ultrakill's Limbo is a bit different from the original, with everything seeming normal until you notice the walls. Also, the birds chirping. They aren't real, they're just coming from these speakers. And the music, while calming, can get really irritating with its melody looping over and over again. That's right, all of Limbo is fake. What seems to be normal is actually a slightly altered version of it. Maybe the trees seem fake, or the water looks more clear than usual. We can't really tell since V1's vision is that of a PS2 game, but it's not a bad guess. Either way, the world of Limbo is hollow, and as you're walking through it, you spot a skull. Skulls are basically keys to unlock certain doors, being color coordinated. Now these skulls are actually pretty important, but as you traverse Limbo, we finally encounter some enemies. New enemies. These little guys are the drones. They were originally mass-produced security drones that acted as both cameras and guards. Obviously in the new piece, no lethal ammunition was used. However, before going to hell, they managed to scavenge new parts to upgrade themselves to acquire blood. They're curious by nature, but still lacking intelligence to cut back finances for production. Drones are annoying, but they aren't that much of a problem. Being quick and small is always a sign up for being a little shit, but the worst part about them is actually when they die. Luckily, you can just parry this, but it's important to keep an eye out for them. Also, have you been listening to this beat? I love the song in this level. It's just such a drastic change from the peaceful melancholy that I was playing earlier. Almost like the reality of this layer has been shattered right in front of you. Yeah, that makes sense. I actually didn't like it at first, but the more I listened to it, the more this song just scratched that specific itch in my ear. Specifically this part. I'll give it A tier, since it's surprisingly catchy, and honestly I should give it S tier, but I'm just gonna stick to the script. As you dispatch our new enemies, you walk through a door where a new weapon presents itself. Why is this here? Well, maybe King Caesar got tired of all this and decided to lighten up things a bit. Yes, King Caesar was in Limbo in Inferno. Picking it up spawns a Maurice in front of you, and oh my god. This is the nail gun. It shoots nails. The nail gun is a combination of an industrial nail gun and old bullet guns, created by engineering machines, as even if they didn't participate in the war, they still had to find a way to defend themselves. This is especially when mankind went extinct. While not being perfect, it still managed to be a well-designed weapon that has infinite ammunition. This is essentially your equivalent to a minigun. High power, but if you use it too recklessly, then it'll overheat. Now obviously being an ultra-kill weapon has to have some complex use of it, in which there are several uses, so let's just go over them quickly. The blue variant is the most complicated of them, and basically places down magnets. Placing a magnet at via target, whether this be an enemy or a wall, will make the nails go towards it whenever you fire. So if you suck at aiming, here you go. You can also set up nail bombs by placing it on the ground and stacking nails onto it, which when the magnet detonates, will cause the nails to burst out, dealing massive damage.
Magnets! Oh!
However, this is more for speedrunning strategies to delete bosses, as it's kinda hard to do this in a normal game. There is a weight limit though, but you could use that as a way to make the nails detonate even faster. Thankfully, the other two variants are easier to explain. Green makes the nail gun go from
wait, hold on, I gotta take my fully automatic out.
to after charging this bar by firing, it basically allows the nail gun to, well, do this. Now the green's normal fire is slower than the blue's, but what you could do instead is just switch to blue and then switch to the green to alt fire it, which I don't know how that works, but we take those. And then finally red. Red isn't as complicated as blue, but also isn't as easy as green. He's the middle child. Red tags an enemy with a cable line, and by shooting the enemy with the line in it, it'll build up this giant electrical pulse, dealing massive damage when it explodes. Now, if you use this on a boss, it surprisingly sucks. It just takes up too much time to build up the electric charge, which you have to stay near him in order for the cable to not disconnect. On a regular enemy, however, after killing one, it will automatically cause the electrical shock to happen, which is a great way to clear a large number of enemies. Anyway, the nail gun is pretty good. I don't use it much though, since it has a certain upgrade or other variant that I will be talking about. You know, I'm just gonna put this up. I'm gonna put this up. Whenever you see this, you know what's gonna happen. We also get to see this weird glass mural of a hand descending to a red pit with an eye staring above. Now, I'm not going to play dumb and act like this is supposed to be some mysterious metaphor for something. The hand in the glass mural is clearly meant to be God, though that doesn't mean this mural doesn't have any mysterious things about it, like the giant red pit below. Now, with red being correlated with anything bad, we can assume that this is probably hell. But what is the eye staring above? Could it be something growing within hell that we'll face later on, or something else entirely? Or is it the devil staring up at the hand of God? For now, I'll leave that up to you. Next to the glass mural and nail gun is this broken statue with a giant spoon-like weapon. Now, we don't know much about this statue until... but it is carrying what appears to be a skull key in its hands, so do what you will with that info. With your new weapon, you swiftly take care of the rest of the level. However, if you look up in this last area, it has a skylight you can break. By ground slamming, we can reach the top, and what's on top is a stone tablet that allows you to press it, which somewhere in Limbo, a mechanism begins to open. Obviously, this is going to lead somewhere. Finishing the level and... Finish the level in under 10 seconds? Now, as impossible as it seems, it is actually possible. You just have to execute these moves in the most precise manner. Yeah, that's it. Now in this secret level, we do puzzles!
Puzzle solved! Everyone, puzzle o'clock!
That's right. We're playing the Witness now. In fact, it's even called the Witless. What I love the most about these secret levels is that they vary from the normal game a lot, completely changing the style and making it enjoyable in some way. Now if you don't like puzzles, then this is going to be tough for you. Might even have to look up a guide. But it really is a lot simpler than it looks. Just take in the moment and relax. Feel the music, and brainstorm what you can do to connect the dots. And remember, the feeling of overcoming something even as insignificant as this is still an amazing one.
Holy shit, I finally did it. That took so goddamn long. You gotta be kidding me.
Reaching the end, and we get to witness the Second Testament.
Failure after failure after failure after failure. The results refuse to alter. Again and again and again and again. My faith begins to falter. God seems to be in a really rough spot. It seems like mankind has actually been resetted multiple times, but the result still remains the same. Mankind appears to be cursed with repetition, even with God interfering, and it looks like God is starting to lose hope on his failed magnum opus. How much longer will he hold on for? With Limbo's true colors revealed, it's no longer afraid to have enemies fight you. Not really much to talk about here. There is this secret compartment down here, but it needs some type of charging for it. Okay, class, what can we do to charge this? Is it the pump charge, the piercer, or the jump start?
I got it! It's the piercer!
Well, I actually used the railgun to charge it.
What about you?
Is it the jump start?
Yes, good job.
Oh, thank God.
Though, in order to make this joke funny, I gotta kill you, so sorry.
Wait, what?
Alright, class is done. Okay, well, I guess we take a detour for now. After killing the Cerberus, yes, they are part of the main cast of enemies now, walk through this door and blow up this side of the wall. Then, after walking over here, where you'll be greeted with this laboratory-esque room. Well, this is a little disturbing. This little guy here is purely a reference to a YouTuber called Civi11, where the rat in quote of the wiki claims to be a children's entertainer, but is actually an alt-right political pundit. What does that even mean?
Don't even get me started
on hey, Civi.
Hi, Cancer Mouse.
Did you get the social commentary going on? Certain people were very
Oh, dear God, this is what my life is now, isn't it?
Despite the name, it's completely harmless. You are a machine after all. Well, that was something. What the fuck? So yeah, this is the real threat. I say threat, but you can literally stomp this guy to death. Killing it opens this gated area, and you're given the second tablet. Now then, let's get back to the actual level. As you walk, you begin to hear something burning. And through this door are a pile of corpses that have been charred. And when you go back out, you'll see that the garden is no longer in its peaceful state. And soon you'll find the culprit of all of this.
These guys are the street cleaners. Lesser machines that are really a pain in the ass to deal with. They're also here to introduce a new mechanic, unparryable attacks. Whenever these guys flash a blue color, get away from them. It's completely impossible to parry these guys. The best thing to do here would be to dodge or get away from them as fast as you can. Street cleaners aren't anything too crazy, but they do have annoying parts to them. And that's the ability to dodge and also say no to your explosives. Like, actually no. Street cleaners will always dodge the first attack you throw at them. Afterwards, it's free game. And whenever you fire an explosive at them, they'll just swipe it away. Well, except the shotgun parry, but they'll probably dodge it. This can get really annoying, especially when there are a lot of enemies around. They do have one huge weakness though, and that's their gas tank behind them. Shooting it will straight up insta-kill them. It's kinda hard to get behind them, but Marksman automatically tracks to it whenever it can, so once again, coins really are the best tool in this entire game. Now, why are they setting everything on fire? Well, during the new piece, they were originally created for the sole purpose of purifying the air, specifically the remains of destroyed cities. And when mankind discovered hell, they were used as scouts to explore the depths of hell. However, that urge to purify remained, and after mankind went extinct, their methods of purification changed, as they wanted to burn any living organic matter they can. Which is ironic, because they're polluting the air with all this fire around. A really annoying enemy, but as long as you just stay away, they aren't too much of a threat. They do have a really cool introduction though. Seeing this vibrant world suddenly get incinerated, and also hearing this chaotic remix of the calm melody as the new threat approaches you, is great. However, playing this song anywhere besides this level would have to put you on a watch list. I'll give it a C tier due to the sudden change in build-up, but it's definitely not pleasant sounding. Other than that, there's nothing else to this level, let's just move on. Right out the gate, you get one of the best songs in the first act. This is Castlevania, the soundtrack for 1-3. It obviously is a reference to Castlevania, and while I would say it's something like its soundtrack, I had never played one, so I'm just assuming they're similar. I did try looking up some Castlevania songs, but there's like 20 games, and the closest I got was this. Anyway, it's an easy S tier. It's catchy, and while I don't think it's up there with the greats, I still think it deserves a spot, albeit a low S tier. It does get repetitive at times. Limbo is really where the soundtrack starts to shine. And just like the OST, I think this is where the game really starts to get good. You have a good set of tools, and even though it's technically only 3 weapons, these 3 weapons synergize so well. Combine that with the aggressive playstyle of Ultrakill, and boom. Doom, but actually fun. The goal of this level is to open the door with the 2 skull keys. Also, quick tip, you can go past this broken wall and drop down to get a double health buff. And thank you developers for making this part way easier to navigate.
I'm not good right now, man. I'm fucked up. I'm in the middle of nowhere, nigga. Look at this shit. Look at this.
I forgot to mention, this is where Cerberus gets introduced in the level. Like, the last one was just like a surprise jump scare. This is when you actually start fighting them. Passing through here, we can find these armored statues, though they appear to be broken and weary, but are still standing. Currently, we have no idea on what these represent though. Oh hey, another skybox. Is this a bar of soap? Anyway, let's just put the skull away first. Well, alright then. This is another secret encounter just like the first one, and guess what? Instead of 1 swords machine, it's 2 of them. Difficult for a new player, but if you've practiced parrying the last ones, then these guys should be no problem. Except the problem is that you need to kill both at the same time, otherwise the other will just get up again. These guys are a reference to Devil May Cry 3's bosses, Agni and Rudra. Except instead of combining and being more cool, these guys have to die together. The important part is when you beat them. You'll get the 3rd tablet to press. Now then, time to pick this guy up and finish this level. Standing before you is a greater demon. This boss is probably going to give you some trouble. Oh, so yeah, the bar of soap will just one-shot anything it touches. which is pretty neat I guess, and I think is a giant metaphor for something. But we should probably talk about this guy even though he's a complete joke here. The Hideous Mass is a greater demon that is created by a really rare occurrence. When an excessive amount of Hell Mass is poured into a shell, it creates life in a horrific manner. The shell breaks open, allowing the creature to move, but also has made the stone incredibly hard, making it impervious to all attacks. Which, yep, that checks out. The Hideous Mass is really not much of a problem, and also rarely shows up in the game. The only tricky part about them is the harpoon. But you can just parry and dodge this. His projectiles he throws in the air are also parryable, but it's just better to move around him. And whenever he gets low, he goes into crying baby mode, which I'm calling it that from now on. In this mode, he becomes even easier to kill, since you can just jump on him and shotgun swap every round into it. Also, who named him this? Come on, that's pretty mean. I mean, look at him. He looks like a lobster. With the main boss dead, probably with soap, we get to the final level of Limbo. Here we are, the end of the Limbo layer, which was a lot faster than I thought, to be honest. And compared to the end of Cerberus, where everything was lava, it's a lot more calming. The Cerberus statues in front directly showing this, with their hell energy turned off. The relaxing atmosphere reinforced by the song Clair de Lune, a song composed by Claude Debussy. Claude Debussy. I hope no one ever gets named this in the modern age. The name of the song meaning moonlight in French, which also has a poem written under the same name.
Your soul is a select landscape, where charming masqueraders and burgomaskers go, playing the lute and dancing and almost sad beneath their fantastic disguises, all sing in a minor key, a victorious love and the opportune life. They do not seem to believe in their happiness, and their song mingles with the moonlight, with the still moonlight, sad and beautiful, that sets the birds dreaming in the trees, and the fountains sobbing in ecstasy, the tall slender fountains among marble statues.
And this poem actually fits very well with Ultrakill's Limbo, mentioning things like sadness behind disguises, and even though the moonlight is out, it's sad and lonely. Of course they aren't directly related, but I wouldn't be surprised if there was some sort of relation Hakita made between the two. Clair de Lune the song is supposed to be about a moment of calmness, which in a way also works for this level. Above the staircases though, shows a completely different story, with a kneeling skeleton and a glass mural of a being in gold armor, with the words "Forgive me" written in blood below it. Now if you head down and head through the main doorway, you can find another skull door. However, it's locked with 3 keys, but these keys are nowhere to be found. But thankfully, we can get a hint by reading this book in this room.
My mind is adrift through the eternal torments, lurid vistas painted in insidious tones, hollow walls that scream to the touch. A mocking song plays at all hours. Even the sounds of birds are fake. All reminders of my enduring damnation. Gabriel, my dearest friend, in endless penance, I have awaited your embrace into heaven. I have been so faithful, accepting of my fate. But to what end? What punishment is this? That I am to bear the keys to my own doom with no hope of salvation? These skulls sneer their devilish grins, voices chattering, tempting me to take the plunge deeper into hell. No, I won't do it. I've hidden them away amongst the furnishing books and the very foundations of this accursed place. Forgive me, Gabriel. I will await your...
It appears the gatekeeper of Limbo has succumbed to the true terror of Limbo, stagnation, the fakeness of the world weighing too much on the mind, to the point where you're actually given the option to go further down to hell to escape this false reality, which is such a crude and cool way of escaping this place. The skulls taunting him most likely being from his insanity, or something else, but that I don't know about that. We'll probably find out later. And it seems his faith with Gabriel has failed him. With the name, the apologies, and the corpse, we can presume this giant figure is Gabriel, a higher being from heaven. However, he seems to have abandoned this person trapped within Limbo.
We? Now we going to what war. Do you mean we? Nintendo? No, nigga, we as in us. Us? Are you talking about no, nigga, us?
We can also see how these machines operate with their goal, summarizing the important bits it needs and calling the rest of it irrelevant. Anyway, we got our hint towards the skull. Basically, you just gotta check any spot that glows or jump on every wall. Though placing your first skull down greets you with a surprise.
A red machine, almost like you. Going through this door, you can find and press the 4th final tablet. And with this, the mechanism is complete. And your reward, an upgrade to the revolver! Well, kinda. This is a slab revolver. At the cost of being slower to fire, it deals way more damage. But if your aim is cracked with the original, it's about the same damage except at a faster rate. So for those skilled with the OG, they would probably prefer that over this, though you have to be like really cracked. Problem is though, is that every part of the slab is just better. Well, except the marksman, but we'll get there. And that's a little bit touchy. The slab piercer in particular is a straight upgrade to the original. The alt fire does way more damage, especially if you pair it with coins.
Now that's a lot of damage!
The sharpshooter variant not only charges instantly, but also does a lot more damage as well. You do lose the 3 charges the OG has, but I find myself not using all 3 charges since I'm swapping a lot. By the time you swap back to the original, you'll probably already have the original charge reset. Plus, with its already niche use, I actually prefer the longer cooldown since I can use my other weapons more. Now, the marksman is where it spirals down a bit. Now, that's not to say the marksman is bad. It just has a considerably higher skill ceiling than the regular one. If you wait a bit after throwing a coin, the slab's fire recharges instantly. Obviously this means a higher DPS rate, but it also takes a lot more skill. Now, I'm not that skilled. In fact, I think I'm average. I have P-ranked, which I'll explain later if you don't know about it, every normal level in the game except the big ones, which I think any player who likes this game should be able to do. So from my perspective, I just use the regular variant. If you're willing to learn this, it's an upgrade, but if you aren't, then just go with the original. Also, this thing is an amazing way to heal, giving back a lot more health, even more than the shotgun. Anyway, I love this thing. Plus, it sounds really cool. Moving on with your new gun and collecting all the skulls, you open the skull door and prepare for what's on the other side.
I'm gonna fuck you up.
This is V2, the inferior version of you. If you don't have an immediate hatred for this thing, then you might be gay. Why did I write this? You know what, I'm not wrong either, which is the funny part. Everyone calls V2 the skill check boss, and guess what, they're right. V2 is the start of actually hard bosses. The first ones you fought were troubling, but that would usually be because of the arena or your lack of experience. V2, however, really challenges your experience. With his small frame and fast firepower, it's tough to not immediately get destroyed by him, and getting near him to heal is hard enough as is. Also, I'm gonna call him him, alright, I know it's a robot, but it's just easier for me, alright? This entire fight depends on your ability to predict, aim, and also parry. He's the same size as you, which is actually a very big drawback, because it's so hard to get a hit on him, especially when you're parrying his attacks. But if you're too passive, he'll go into crying baby mode, except this time it's actually a threat. If this is your first time fighting him, Marksman is going to be your best friend in this fight. Being able to auto-track and deal consistent damage is amazing. And he doesn't have Marksman. The only guns that he copies from you are his shotgun and revolver. Still doesn't help that you need to wait for each coin and also avoid his attacks, but hey, it's a start. Now, my only tip is one thing. Get good. This fight is really the first step to actually getting good at the game. And also, try to parry him. On the off chance it happens, the reward for it is substantial. Plus, it'll pay off in the long run, so don't be afraid to punch another machine's bullets. Also, his theme is a banger, alright? I've used this track in my videos so many times because it's just that good. Versus, as it says in the name, really encapsulates the whole atmosphere of the fight. V2 didn't need to stomp down and introduce himself. If he really wanted to, he could have snuck up on you. But even a machine has pride. And that pride is to prove that he is the better version of you. And the song perfectly captures that feeling of a battle between who's stronger. S tier. I told you the songs were getting better. Anyway, after besting V2, which probably took over 20 minutes, V2 retreats and also loses his arm. And now you have a new arm called the Knuckle Duster. Now, how do you have a new arm even though you already have 2 of them? I think, honestly, okay, I looked this up. I think he's winged. So V2, V1, fuck, wrong one. Okay, calm down. It's me from the future. Before, I thought the arms were just stored in V1's wings, since the cover art shows weapons being stored back there, but with the new menu, it seems like the theory of V1 shoving arms onto itself is more likely. We still don't know and probably will never know, as Hakita hasn't answered this, and with this Discord message that I just found, yeah, I don't think we're ever gonna know. Bottom line, who cares? Okay, let's just move on because I regret making this part. Now, adding a new arm can be very controversial in a lot of ways. First off, you can't parry with this thing. Second, it's a lot slower. And third, you can't fucking parry with this thing. The Knuckle Duster does have one big positive though. Damage. Shotgun swapping while punching is an immediate death sentence to anything close to you. It also does have some practical uses, like being able to blow away projectiles, which will become very useful for an enemy later on. Obviously not a complete replacement for your regular fist, but the Knuckle Duster is a good side grade to your fists, and it will continue to get better as the game goes on. Also, you can punch off that chainsaw now. I don't know how this helps, but there's that. Hakita, no matter what, that gun fucking sucks, alright? You can't make it good. Is it funny? Yeah, it's pretty funny. It's a chainsaw on the gun. Is it good? No. Anyway, V2 lore time, yay! V2 not only has important lore about the new piece in Final War, but also important lore about you. The original V model, aka U, was built for war. It was built with a new kind of exterior that allowed blood to refuel itself through contact rather than storage. This came at a cost, with durability being a lot thinner than most machines, hence why you are a demigod, but can crumple like a piece of paper. However, the positives outweigh the negatives by a large margin, with its ability to continually fight. But this was all in the prototyping phase. Before the V model could be established, the new piece began, an era where war would no longer walk the face of Earth. Because of this, the production was cancelled and a new model was created, one that used standard heavy plating for protection, but not have the same blood refueling properties as the original. After all, what's the point of having a blood refueling machine in an era with no bloodshed? However, after conflict was quickly solved, neither models actually became official, with the V model only ever producing one of each. V1 was obviously built for war, while V2 was probably built as a security or enforcement machine, created for the sole purpose of ensuring no violence will be done in this era, now both having lost their original purpose. However, they are activated by unknown means to journey into hell and refuel. This is definitely the most important lore drop we've gotten so far. We essentially get our original purpose and backstory, while also learning a bit about the new piece and Final War. It seems that the new piece was established pretty fast, since the V2 model never left the prototyping phase like V1, showing us that the Final War really made everyone sick of war. Anyhow, with Limbo complete, we can move on to the next layer of hell, Lust. Entering into the second layer of hell, and it's a lot more industrial, with metal walls all around you. In Inferno, Lust is essentially a giant vortex that is constantly pulling people around, twisting and turning them throughout the layer. It was a punishment for those who delved too deep into sexual desires, which for some reason translates to being turned into a kite for eternity. But in Ultrakill, it's more like we're being protected by something. Moving up and we can witness the true Lust layer, but also what has become of it. And yeah, there are some heavy winds here, but you aren't really affected by it. Instead, there are these giant buildings everywhere, appearing as a city instead of a place of damnation. The clouds being dark and depressing, but not anything too harmful. Well, except for that thing. The first level of Lust shows us that hell isn't actually what it appears to be. While not thriving anymore, the winds have really calmed down compared to what's actually supposed to happen down here. The soundtrack of this stage representing this the best. It's just nothing but cold winds. The song Cold Winds feels like something has been left behind, and this is the only thing that remains. It's depressing, but it feels like just the start of a tragedy. I really like the somber tone it goes for instead of a more action-focused beat, but I do think it gets outclassed by another song, but for being essentially a preview to the true nature of Lust, I'll give it a B tier. Also, there are a lot of bounce pads here, which hey, another precaution that was made for the win. Anyway, that's really about it for the first layer. Let's just move on to the second level. The second level of Lust is where we can truly see what has happened, except not in the way you expected. You're now fighting in this desolate city that has lights on, but no one is living in it anymore.
Also, we get a new enemy that I fucking hate. These are the soldiers, and they are a big jump in difficulty. Not necessarily hard, but more annoying to take out. Soldiers are greater husks that are actually augmented versions of strays, scavenging machine parts to make their hell energy more potent, shooting 4 projectiles instead of 1. The increase in power has made them more aggressive, moving around a lot more and also kicking you in the face in case you ever get too close. No longer the bitch boys they once were.
Man, shut your...
Their intelligence, however, remains about the same. But if that's the case, then how are they able to upgrade themselves with this intelligence? As I said before, soldiers are a big ramp up in difficulty. They're also immune to explosions, and this includes shotgun parries, which is a big blow to the shotgun. However, you still can parry them. In fact, you can say it's easier now since they fire a lot more projectiles. That one time you do mess up though is gonna hurt a lot. This is only just the beginning of the rise of difficulty here though, and soon it's gonna get really hectic. Anyway, in order to progress, we'll need to break 3 power sources, which are keeping the gate locked. And as we progress more, it just gets more and more sad, especially the music. Requiem is one of my favorite tracks in the entire game. Whatever happened to Lust has become unfinished, just like Requiem, the song that Mozart made. Requiem is also a mass for the repose of the souls of the dead, and I got that from Google. I did not, yeah, those were not my words. In other words, basically to remember the dead, and yeah, that fits very well here. The reason why I like Requiem so much is that it is 1, emotional, 2, sounds really fucking good, and 3, is so different from any other song in this entire game. When you think of Ultrakill, you think of high action songs like Versus, Into the Fire, but then you get something like this, and really does feel like, for once, you're not the main character. This whole story about this city isn't about you. It's about the Lust Layer and what happened to it. For me, it's an S tier. I just love the story behind the song and what it represents. And as you figure out more about the layer, it really does just empower this whole entire song. But now a bigger question appears. Why the hell is the Lust Layer like this? Now, before we get to that, here's your new toy for the day. This is the rail cannon. The rail cannon is basically a railgun, but for some reason Hakita called it a cannon. I don't know why. Maybe he's trying to be different. I don't know. This is your biggest source of damage, but it also has a long cooldown, so you can't spam it. The railgun is special, because while it looks like a gun you just pull out and do big damage every now and then, it actually has a lot of skill underneath. And obviously, it has to do with coins, because everything has to do with fucking coins. Now, since the railgun is a hit scan, you can actually shoot the coins with the railgun. It will do more damage, but it won't stack like other weapons. And since coins auto-aim to the closest target, this seems pretty bad. Except, you can do this. This is rail coining, and I absolutely adore rail coining. Basically, you shove the coins inside an enemy, preferably a big target, and then fire at the coins. First, you get the initial damage of the railgun, and then the coin bounces the shot back into the target and is also buffed by the coin, dealing a stupid amount of damage. The more coins you add, the more it can bounce, but it's also a lot harder to time. You can also combine it with nails to create a chain reaction with the lightning, which I didn't even know about. I just discovered this. And goddamn, this is cool. Now, we have the next 2 variants, and these are a lot different than other variants. The reason why is because with each railgun, your playstyle with it will change dramatically. The red variant makes the railgun go from a beam to an explosive. It does a little more damage than blue, but with rail coining, it gets outweighed completely. However, what this girl has is nuking, and yep, it's in the name. Shooting a core eject with the red variant creates a red explosion that is twice as big, dealing, I've said this so many times, but massive damage. Not to the point of rail coining, but still a lot. However, unlike rail coining, which is more for single targets, it is amazing at clearing out large rooms. Now this puts the railgun into 2 different uses, crowd control or single targets. Now of course, all this needs proper timing, and if you miss your chance with either, that is a big loss. You'll have to wait 16 seconds just to try that again, which if you're speedrunning or having trouble, that can be detrimental to you. Whatever suits you better, that's it, alright? However, nuking isn't just used for crowd control, it's also used for speed. Basically, you take the core eject, aim it directly behind you, and then as soon as you release the core eject, switch to the red railgun and fire. This is the fastest way to propel yourself 100 miles per hour. Now finally, Green. I love Green. Green is that one kid in the back that gets made fun of a lot, but when you actually talk to him, he's actually pretty chill. Green used to be
useless. I say that even though it really wasn't. Green, aka the screwdriver, is all about survivability, but its damage is also pretty good. Not as much as the other variants, but to the point where it's not completely outclassed. Shooting the screwdriver at an enemy will stop it and drain their blood. This is automatically a full heal unless the enemy either dies or it runs out. So it's incredibly useful if you're having trouble with the game. It does damage over time, and when fully used up, it will deal roughly the same amount of damage as a regular railgun shot would.
Know your fucking place, trash.
So pretty garbage. Not really, but this used to be the main reason why people disliked it so much. If you were good at the game and knew how to gain back health efficiently, like with the slab or shotgun or the railgun, then it would be really niche, only for like people who are really struggling. But it was still useful for new players, giving them a safe window to chill for a moment. While I don't use it much anymore, it still provided me with that comfort when I needed it. This is where the screwdriver goes from a bad choice to an actually good one, because Hakita gave this gal a pretty big buff. If you fire the screwdriver and immediately punch it, it will deal a huge amount of damage. Not only that, but it also fires the screwdriver again, so you can chain this thing around until it misses or kills the enemy. You have to punch it immediately or else it won't do that much damage. This not only presents you with a solid damage option, but also an option to heal in case you need it. Overall, the railgun is perfectly balanced, and rewards skill while also providing unique benefits to each variant as well. If we were ranking weapons, it'd be S tier. The railgun was actually one of the uses of technology that would soon create the electric guns. Originally, it was meant to be a handheld generator, helpful for expeditions or traveling. However, after mankind fell, a machine repurposed the railgun into its high voltage counterpart that we see today. Alright, that's it for the railgun. Alright, let's just move on. That took me like 3 pages to write. Anyway, look at this painting. It's hard to see because of the dogshit vision we have, but it appears to be an elderly man with thorns around his eyes. And just checking the interior of the house, and you can see that the people who lived here lived comfortably. But we also get to see a hint on why this whole layer is like this.
Gabriel struck down Minos, his flesh torn asunder with torrents of crimson pulling at his feet, as we all cried out for clarity. Justice, Gabriel decreed to all, with our just ruler writhing in wailing agony. The Lord's will be done. We watched on in horror as Minos lay broken, now waning, screaming in defiance of God's will. Gabriel.
Gabriel returns in text again to show us that he killed King Minos. Now, a little mythological lore here. King Minos from the Greek mythology is the judge of hell in this story. Why are there Greek characters in a story that also has Christian aspects to it? I don't know, but it's pretty cool, so I'm letting it slide. King Minos has a very weird story to him, I'm not gonna lie. He was the king of Crete, and also a son of Zeus, but that guy had hundreds of kids. However, he was supposed to offer up a bull as a sacrifice to Poseidon, but then he didn't because the bull looked cool to him, which fair to him. However, Poseidon didn't like that, so he decided to make Minos' wife fall in love with the bull, and she... Why am I reading this? Creating what's now known as the Minotaur. What were they smoking back then? The Greeks were on like a whole other level of freakiness, alright? Anyway, Minos, being rightfully disgusted, wants the bull out of his sight. But it's still his son in a way, so he decides to hire Daedalus to build a labyrinth to seal the Minotaur away forever. Until Theseus came and killed it, and after dying, I guess Hades was like, dude, that is messed up. You want to become a judge of hell for me? And Minos was like, sure, fine. I fucking hate your brother. And now for some reason, Minos is the judge of hell in Dante's Inferno. He literally just listens to what you did, and then just decides to chuck you into whatever lair. Now, we'll talk more about Gabriel later, but let's just focus on Minos' involvement with the game for now. It seems like for some reason, Minos was killed by Gabriel, and this was met with a bunch of horrified screams of the new citizens of the city. So for whatever reason, Minos decided to stop being the judge of hell and reinforce the lust lair so that the winds would no longer harm its inhabitants. The giant buildings were created to withstand all of it, allowing sinners to finally have a peace of mind after years of suffering. But Gabriel was like,
"You defy the light!"
and killed Minos, which probably started this whole empty city thing. So yeah, Gabriel just sounds like a dick right now. And that's really all that's left for this level. One last look at that creature lurking over, and let's move on to the next level. Okay, so next level has a lot going on.
Now obviously the name is a reference to Queen. I don't know if the song or album have anything to do with the lust layer, but only saw that the song is about a 17-year-old girl giving men cardiac arrest. I guess it's a form of lust. Now this level really only has two things going on. One, a new enemy, and two, a secret level. Before we get into that though, first, the song of this level, Panic Betrayer. Panic Betrayer has a lot of techno and fast moving beats, though in my opinion, it just doesn't hit as hard as Castlevania or emotionally impactful as Requiem. In fact, in my opinion, I'd say it's below Shattered Illusion as well. There are some parts that I really like, but I don't really jive with the whole techno parts that much. I'd say high B for this one, which is funny because I was shit talking it, but it's still a B tier. It's fine, but it's definitely not one of my favorites and definitely isn't added to the playlist. Now then, new enemy, Floating Woman. Yep. This is the Mind Flayer.
Dude, I wanna jerk off! Fuck! I wanna jerk off! Look at this!
Mind Flayers are greater machines that are rare to come by, but a major threat if they do. On their own, they're nothing but an annoyance that can catch you off guard, but in groups, they become a must-target threat. This is due to the Mind Flayer being way more advanced in using hell energy with its technical prowess, and that's with giant lasers and homing projectiles. The projectiles can thankfully be parried, but in the heat of battle, it's easier said than done. And while the giant laser has limited movement, it cannot be parried, and can also be deceptively long. They also have the ability to teleport and also melee at close range. This can actually be parried, and occasionally, they'll try to do this nothing personal kid attack and swipe you. Already, this enemy has a lot of attacks, but there are ways to shut this down. If you have trouble with the tracking projectiles, you can actually use the Knuckle Duster to blast them away. The Knuckle Duster having a lot more range compared to the regular punch. And the laser has a long startup and also a specific sound cue, so you can close the distance as the laser is weak in close range. And while in close range, they'll probably just melee. Once again though, this is all easier said than done, since most times, you'll probably have to deal with a bunch of enemies as well. But you can also use audio cues since both of these sounds are pretty noticeable. And if that doesn't work, you can just insta-kill them. If you time it right, as they are about to release their projectiles, you can shoot an explosive at them, resulting in an insta-kill. Good luck with that though, since it's pretty hard to time. Also, just like the drones, you need to watch out after they die, since for some reason every machine likes to do a kamikaze attack, which can kill other enemies. In fact, using the Knuckle Duster, you can punch them into a group to kill two birds with one stone. And lastly, the best tip if you're new, the screwdriver. See, told you it's useful. That's right, baby, it's even more useful as you can kinda stun-lock the Mind Flayer. Using the screwdriver on a Mind Flayer disables their teleport, allowing you to freely attack them. They can still attack though, so be careful. Now, the machine part of the Mind Flayer is actually only the top part. The rest is just a plastic shell, which they made themselves. And yeah, this is the lust layer. The plastic doesn't serve any other use and is only there for design. However, despite that part being useless, Mind Flayers will do their best to protect it from harm, going as far as exploiting themselves. And one last fun fact, they prefer their female appearance, but apparently there are male Mind Flayers out there. There you go, ladies. And gay men. Also, don't they look like they're doing the anime rich girl pose? Anyway, on to the secret level. Okay, so first we had a budget horror game that nearly gave me a heart attack, and also a puzzle game that was oddly calming. Let me guess, you already know what's next. I'm gonna rip out your heart. The secret door is locked behind this waterfall, but by breaking all 3 water controls, you can shut off all water passages in this level. This is also how you do the secret objective. Now then, let's see what awaits us. Heavy steps, ragged breathing. There isn't much time left. It might already be too late. The labyrinthine pathways of arbitrary sharp turns seemed stranger and stranger as panic blotted out the once deeply ingrained memories that usually guided me. Every corner felt a stranger. Every straight line too long. The bell tolls for me. I bit down harder in the last of my rations, held only by the skin of my teeth. It barely hung on as I kept frantically looking around, hoping for the few scraps of burning memory of mine to find a familiar sight that would lead me to salvation. The gates must be closing by now. The last few barely making it. The rest of us never stood a chance. Suddenly, from a blind spot, a figure struck me. There was no time to react before I came crashing down onto the cold, hard ground. I struggled to regain my senses to at least see what fate would befall me in my final moments, but even in the abyss of endless terror, my mind could never have imagined
the horror I witnessed.
Oof, ow, ouch, that stings.
What the fuck?
Now, ignoring this for a moment, let's pay attention to the beginning part. What seems to be just a way to lure our expectations away, you can actually see that this is describing the process of a husk, specifically low-ranking husks like Filth and Strays. Their minds slowly deteriorating as they are forced to succumb to their new fate. And right as their last bit of will is hanging on, a machine strikes them. Anyway, onto this. This is Mirage. And let me just say, she kind of bad though, not gonna lie, like come on. I'm assuming her name is Mirage because mirages are illusions that come from dehydration, which fit very well here, considering this whole sequence feels like a fever dream. Now getting a tiny bit serious here, this section really shows how Hakita can make a funny haha random moment into a surprisingly disturbing one.
Because nothing matters. There's no point in trying, if the end result will be the same anyway. Try as you might, you'll end up eventually just become forgotten dust in the wind like the rest of us. I mean really, take a moment to think about it. The human mind, in its complete vastness, is capable of recognizing its utter helplessness and uselessness in the face of inevitable and unavoidable non-existence, but is incapable of coming to terms with it. We can only ever ignore it, hide from it, or temporarily escape from it, but the fact is that we are bound to the way of all things. Death is unavoidable, not only to us, but all that exists or ever has existed. Every living being will eventually die out. Every speck of matter will eventually wither away and dissipate into entropy. It doesn't matter if you lived a good life or if you left a legacy behind. It doesn't matter if humanity survives for 1,000 years or dies out tomorrow. The end result is the same, the absolute nothing.
Mirage's whole viewpoint on the world is extremely nihilistic. What point is there living or choosing to act when there is an inevitable end to us? As of today, the whole world will one day collapse. So what's the point of making your place on this planet if it's just going to end and disappear one day? What is the point of life? What is the purpose to exist in this meaningless world? In fact, it's more of a curse now, since we're forced to live with it until our very demise. While animals are under the same pressure as us, they don't feel it. They don't have to live with the curse of knowledge. Ignorance is bliss, while we have no choice but to live without it. We are flawed individuals who have no choice but to live with this, and suffer until the time comes. And the only thing we can do is try to ignore it with tasks and goals that are ultimately meaningless. So I say again,
in the end, nothing matters. There's no point in trying to find joy in life, for life in and of itself is suffering.
You are all. You criticize those who consider our vast intelligence a gift. And yet, also misguide yourself to believe our meaninglessness is a curse. Nothing we do better than the end, and that is precisely why we are not shackled by the burden of expectation. Time cannot be wasted, for there is no greater purpose in life than simply living it.
But still, in that case, the meaninglessness of our actions draws to the same conclusion. There is no reason to act.
Quite the contrary. Because we have no greater purpose, we are free to set our own goals. It is because we have no greater purpose that time spent on goals set by oneself cannot be wasted.
I do understand what you mean. However, that doesn't ease my fear of the end. I understand it logically, and I know there is no reason to live in apathy, but my emotional side refuses to listen. The fear persists, and I cannot motivate myself to seek purpose.
And it is worth fearing. Giving up hope is not accepting the end. It is simply embracing the fear of it. By continually forcing to subvert those creeping negative thoughts with the positive logical ones, the emotional mind will eventually, slowly, gradually start to shape to fit the logical. You can change. You can heal. And during the hardest times, when all seems lost and you want to give up, never forget. We will always love you.
Just because life is meaningless doesn't excuse the effort to make it worthwhile. As long as you are living for some kind of purpose, it will never be wasted time. That's why we set goals, to ensure the life we live in will mean something for us in the end. Life is a journey, not a destination. Have fun. Enjoy the ride, even if it has ups and downs. If you get that reference, I love you. I love this mission. Yeah, it's not as interactive as the others, but it's such a drastic change that it makes it even more impactful. First off, it's a fucking visual novel, and that's hilarious. Second, why is Mirage kinda bad though? And finally third, it's a great way to twist the usual, haha, look, you're dating a character in a game where the genre is the complete opposite. And I have no problem with this, I think it's funny, but it has been done a lot. Not to death though, since it still is kinda funny. Most of the existential dread that Mirage feels are actually based off of Hakita's own experiences with it. Mirage's viewpoint directly comes from a story by Peter Wessel-Zapp's story, The Last Messiah. The Last Messiah talks about Peter's view on the human condition and how bleak it is. The Last Messiah in the story being a man who has stripped himself of everything and accepting the end, with his philosophy being, know yourselves, be infertile, and let the earth be silent after ye. In this curiosity dive of nihilistic literature, Hakita would end up reading I Have a Special Plan for This World, a poem by Thomas Ligotti, which he read thanks to Current 93's adaptation of it, which might be the most nihilistic piece of literature I've ever read. The protagonist's viewpoint also comes from Hakita's personal experience with overcoming existential dread. It was apparently so bad that he would sometimes start crying while lying in bed. However, he ended up using this existential dread to turn it into something positive. Since life is pointless, why not make it fulfilling by doing as much as you can do in a day? You're still living after all, might as well do something during the time you have. And as silly as it is, it's a great way to show how he overcame this. Almost like he's confronting his old self. But then that would mean Hakita canonically was a femboy at some point of his life. This theory truly goes deep. Anyway, good secret level. Though it doesn't have a secret terminal, which honestly kinda makes sense. It would be a jarring sequence to see a robot in a skirt overcome her existential dread, and then go on to read about God having a mental breakdown. Anyway, I should probably talk about the levels in some parts. I hate this level. Hate is a strong word. I just dislike it the most out of all of them in Act 1, honestly. But this one is just like, the traps here are so damn annoying. Anyway, let's just move on to the final level already. In the climax of Lust, we have a train station. This train station was probably built as a way to travel through the lair, as it's heavily reinforced, being able to travel without having to deal with the giant winds outside. But it's just completely empty here, not even one of the husks that you fought throughout the lair. The only moving thing that remains is this cart. Now, despite having this cart thing helping you move, there's actually a faster way you can go, unless you like the idle experience of being on a tram. Now honestly, I probably should have mentioned this earlier, but I think it works here. As I've mentioned before, like a while back, sliding is faster than walking, though it's still slower than the train cart. Though if you crouch and then jump right after, you'll be launched forward, carrying the momentum of sliding mid-air, and you can just chain this over and over again. The best part is that it's not that hard either, and for some reason I told you this late. But for story purposes, let's just go with the train cart right now. Stopping us from going any further is this closed gate that requires a skull key. And when you go searching for it, you can see all the empty seats and flickering lights around. Any husks that had any form of intelligence are dead. All that's left are husks with no minds, or ones that are barely hanging on by a thread. Anyway, you put the skull key down and continue to travel. This hand is a mini-boss, and it looks like it's from the big guy walking all over Lust. He has 3 attacks, which is just 3 slams in different directions. It's not that much of a threat, and you can also just railcoin it at the beginning, skipping the first phase. Shotgun swapping is also great, as the hand is so big, you'll probably hit all your shots on it. After finishing the hand... Yeah, I don't like that sentence. You wonder how the hell did it squeeze in here? Seriously, there's no opening or anything down here. Once again, grab the skull key, make your way back, and place it down. Well, meet King Minos, or at least, who was once King Minos. The man who was once the judge of hell is now just a gigantic corpse wandering throughout the lair. The corpse of King Minos is a giant boss fight, but you want to know what makes this cooler than other giant boss fights? This. You can parry the punches it throws at you, which is hilarious to think about. This small robot just throws a little punch and it stuns this behemoth. Like, it looks like he's genuinely in pain. The corpse of Minos doesn't have a lot of attacks. He just has a punch, slam, palm, and this black hole thing, which will chase you around, and if it hits you, your health will be reduced to 1. However, if you parry a punch, then it destroys it. If you learn how to parry the punches, then this boss fight is really easy. All you really need to do is just wait until the fist is directly in you, and oh my god, that can mean so many other things. Once he gets down to half health, weird skull things will come out of his eyes and shoot projectiles. But once again, parry. Ultrakill's giant boss fights aren't hard, but what they do have is spectacle. These things are just a lot of fun to fight against. They may not be the hardest, but they provide this dopamine hit that makes it so thrilling to play against. I mean, you're parrying a giant's punches. How cooler can you get? Anyway, this guy goes down pretty easily. Once the respected and beloved King of Lust is now reduced to a walking corpse. But due to his incredible will and status as a ruler, his husk has increased to a size no other husk has ever reached. This only happened after he died, by the way. Before, he was a lot smaller. His will being so strong that small traces of the original soul can still be detected within his body. The corpse, however, is being animated by these snake-like parasites that he once commanded. That would be these guys that popped out of his eyes. And it looks like those commands were vital, as his corpse is now being used as a way to find sinners and punish them once again. Minos would be the catalyst for the renaissance of the Lust Layer, but also the fall of it as well. King Minos was a rightful ruler who, instead of punishing sinners, wanted to give them a chance to experience life once more, but was punished for this greatly. And what's left? You know the rest of the story. So concludes the Lust Layer, one of my favorites in the entire game. I just love the whole vibe, and yeah, I didn't do this for Limbo, but I guess, okay, well it's kinda too late now, but I really like Limbo. The Limbo layer was really cool and fun, and the whole twist thing was nice, but other than that, the level layouts and all that, Meanwhile, the Lust Layer, it felt like you were learning the story of the whole layer by just traversing the levels. Well, except sheer heart attack, I don't know what the hell was going on down there. While Limbo, you really didn't get a story until the very last level, which was cool to be honest. Also, Limbo being the fake version of the real world, it gets cool in the beginning, but really just turns bland and basic later. The Lust Layer, on the other hand, has this nice, cool, vibrant, purple color over everything, and looks very clean. And yes, it has bisexual lighting. Plus, seeing the corpse of King Minos in the background is so haunting, but cool to look at. Like, I really like the spectacle of seeing just this gigantic beast in the back, and then knowing you're just gonna fight it. You have to fight it, or you're gonna interact with it somehow. Overall, the Lust Layer just proves that Ultrakill gets better as the game goes on. Which, the next layer is Gluttony. So let's see where this leads, as this is the final layer in Act 1. Here we are, the last layer in Act 1. Now, despite how it looks from the way we entered, Gluttony is actually not in Minos' body. I'll explain this a lot more later, but just know right now, we are not in the corpse of Minos. Gluttony looks a lot different compared to the one in Inferno. In Inferno, sinners were forced to lay in this icy mud created by rain, hail, and snow. Cerberus is also present, and he just goes around eating people. Now in Ultrakill, you are instead eaten and forced to be submerged in stomach acid forever, with all the eyes and strange organs around you. The layer of Gluttony represents the very core of it, the stomach. But this stomach has like 100 deformations in it, with the eyes on the wall tracking your every movement, and the doors being replaced with teeth. It's as if this whole layer is alive. This layer is disgusting, but in the best way possible. And I prefer this one over Inferno. And yeah, Cerberus is there, but he just runs around chomping on people. It's not as creative as literally being digested in something's stomach. Which, fun fact, Gluttony looked a lot different from before. The original Gluttony was rushed due to deadlines, so it always had this unpolished feel to it. However, the new Gluttony in the revamp update actually makes this level look cool. You can see all the stomach juices, or whatever that fluid is, dripping down, and it is disgusting, oh my god. This is basically what I imagine an average European stomach to look like. And why am I mentioning the revamp update right now? No reason. It's not like the update that remasters every level in Act 1 releases as I'm about to go into the final parts of making this video, which took 5 months to make, and it's now being prolonged even more because I have to re-record so much footage so that it doesn't look outdated, and some footage is naturally going to have to remain unchanged because of the editing. Anyway, there's not really much to say here. The third layer will always be the penultimate challenge of the act. You'll be thrown everything you've faced so far, truly testing your skills on how far you've come. like 3 Cerberuses, a room full of Maurices, and mind flares in your stomach acid, which can obviously hurt you. You are probably gonna die a lot, but with each death, you get better, and soon enough to fight the final boss. Also, the music in this level is really strange, with tracks like Guts and Glory being polar opposites of each other. Guts is a droning sound that really solidifies the grittiness of this layer, while Glory is like witnessing the end of it. Guts really fits the vibe of Gluttony, but obviously I'm not really into droning sounds, so yeah, that gets a D. But Glory is actually pretty cool, especially when you get to this room. The more I listen to it, the more I like it. It's like a mix between Requiem and Panic Betrayer, and it's both uplifting and tragic. You know, originally I would have given it a C tier, but it really has grown on me. I'll give it A tier. I still like Requiem better, but this is like a cool remix version of it. That's really all I can say about Gluttony. There's not really any lore surrounding the area, or any story around it in general. It's just a vile layer made to challenge you and your skills to prep you for the final boss. This is it, the climax of not only Gluttony, but also Act 1. There are no enemies, no signs of threats, or even an OST. Just ambience and a droning sound, which I guess you can count as music, but no.
Machine, turn back now. The layers of this palace are not for your kind. Turn back, or you will be crossing the will of God.
For the first time in this game, and probably for you in years, someone speaks to you. Someone who sounds righteous and holy. Now because you're just a GoPro with wings, you continue.
Your choice is made. As the righteous hand of the Father, I shall rend you apart, and you will become inanimate once more.
With both of your choices made, you know who you're fighting. The man who claims to be righteous and holy, and the man who will strike anything crossing the will of God, whether that be sinners, judges, or friends. Gabriel stands before you as the final boss of Act 1, and yeah, he's kinda hard. Gabriel's difficulty comes more from learning how to dodge than anything else. If you got your dodges down perfectly, you'll be fine. If you don't, well, it's not gonna go well for you. However, thanks to his ego and very righteous behavior, he will occasionally talk shit to you.
You make even the devil cry!
Giving you generous time to heal up or set up some big attacks. And all in all, makes a damn good boss fight. And when you fight him for the first time, it almost feels like you have no time to properly think and act purely on instinct, only to be snapped back by him calling your existence a literal crime.
Your crime is existence.
I love that voice line so much. All of this being amped up even more by the song in the background, Divine Intervention. A powerful and imposing track that really sets the tone of the whole fight, with the choir in the background and the music ramping up as the fight gets more intense. The only criticisms I have for this though is that listening to it by itself, it feels a bit empty. Now I know we're like almost 2 hours in, but the criteria for being in S tier or in the tier should be music that is memorable outside of the game. Divine Intervention on the other hand suffers from loop syndrome, since you can catch it looping quite a bit when you're not fighting against Gabriel. Either way, it's still a banger, but I'd say it's A tier. Now, unlike other bosses, Gabriel has 2 health bars, and once he's down to his 2nd health bar, he goes into crying baby mode. But this one's terrifying. His moves are a lot faster, extended, and he also teleports around more often. Plus he's red. However, he will still take the time to shit talk you.
Foolishness, machine, foolishness.
And honestly, like every boss I've mentioned, just keep calm. Also, whenever he does 2 sequence of attacks, he will usually go into trash talk mode. Now this isn't guaranteed, but most of the time it will happen. So if you're low or want to deal big damage, just wait out a couple of attacks and you'll get your free window. Also, Gabriel has a massive fear of nails, and it'll do extra damage to him. I wonder why. Lastly, whenever he switches to his 2nd phase, For some reason, he gets booted into the air, and any attack dealt to him during this time shoots him up even further, which allows you to deal some extra damage to his second phase and also do a combo on him. And after some trial and error, eventually Gabriel is defeated.
What? How can this be? Vested by this thing? You insignificant fuck! This is not over! May your woes be many and your days few.
Basically the average League of Legends player. Gabriel isn't killed because for some reason V1 decided to spare him, so Gabriel flees and swears vengeance upon you. And finally, this signals the end of Act 1. Disgrace, humiliation, unseemly and unwelcome at the feet of the council. Their eyes ablaze with bitter resentment, glaring through Gabriel's wounds of body and soul, bore outward for all to see.
Our Creator. It is unworthy of the holy light. Father's light is indomitable.
Their words resonated into Cat's limbs, coursing through as lightning upon wire. A searing hiss that would strike Lesser's deaf and blind. The holy light within him, an unstoppable storm of divine fury, insurmountable for mere objects. This he knew.
Holy Council, my devotion to our Creator is absolute. I have never strayed from the will of the Father, but the machine was...
You dare to imply that the might of the Father could be shaken by mere objects?
Not so. Impossible! Heresy! Unspeakable! Heresy! Heresy!
Silence! Your failure will not be tolerated. As punishment, the Father's light shall be severed from your body. You have 1 day before the last of its embers die out.
And you with them.
Prove your loyalty. Unmake your mistakes.
As the light was ripped from his being, Gabriel's screams were silenced in the hiss of gospel in praise of God, a boiling anguish to which even the fires of hell could not compare. Through the blaze of torment, a single burning hatred was forged anew.
Machine, heed my words. If you seek blood, I'll hand it to you. Bravely.
And with such fury, even metal will bleed. Gabriel, the Judge of Hell, a supreme angel who is one of the most respected and feared in his kind, earning his reputation through efficiency and power. Any task given to him, Gabriel will complete it without fault. Well, until we came in. After swiftly killing Minos, Gabriel would become the new Judge of Hell, ending the Lust Renaissance and cursing its dwellers to endless suffering once more. Despite being under the council, he is far more popular due to his radiant attitude and active nature, a stark difference to the council's strict and ruthless behavior, keen on holding the faith they've been left with, and this is reinforced through Gabriel's punishment. He has lost it all. The light that was burning bright inside of him is now being faded away after every second. All that remains inside of him now is pure rage. The machine has committed a cardinal sin, and it shall know perfect hatred. Gabriel as a character in this game is fascinating.
Hakita does a great job at building his character in such short time. Slight spoiler, but Gabriel is to be considered the true protagonist of this game, since his character arc throughout the game changes drastically. For now, he's just a whiny bitch boy who's dying, but later on, he becomes something entirely different. Also, we're given the timeline of this game, which is 1 day. We are speedrunning through the entirety of hell in 1 day. That's gotta be a world record. It really does put in perspective just how efficient and powerful V1 is. Also the fact that we're literally beating up angels at this point.
I absolve you of your sins.
V1 solos your verse. And we're done! That's it. Wrap it up, folks. It was honestly fun making this video, and I couldn't do it without the help of... Where are you going? Oh! Right. Right. How could I forget? The secret level of Gluttony. Gluttony's secret level is a bit different from the others. In order to unlock it, you need to do a couple of things first. If you go down here during the first level of Gluttony, you can jump over here and find the secret level gate. Now, you see those P's? That means you gotta P rank every level in Act 1. A P rank is a little different from an S rank. P rank requires all enemies dead, extremely high style, and also probably the hardest part, it has to be completed within a certain time range. By pressing tab twice, you can look up your kills, time, and style. An easy way to track if you're doing a P rank. Last, but certainly not least, you cannot die whatsoever. Dying once and getting the required P rank stats will instead result in an S rank. So this means you will have to restart the level from the very beginning each time you die. Now honestly, for certain levels, it's not bad. But that isn't the case for these guys. In order to P-rank these guys, you truly have to get good at the game, whether that be through exploits or simply becoming a god. And these guys are not easy to get P-ranks, especially this fucker. Also, I probably should have mentioned this during the V2 portion, but we're here now. V2 has a secret exploit that makes this fight a lot easier, and that's with coins. Coins are everything, I told you. During V2's intro, you can actually hit him. This is only through coins though, so if you want to kill him, you gotta maximize the coin hits by doing some funky tricks. However, if you want an easy method to get rid of at least half of his health, just coin punch him. Coin punching all 5 hits will deal a lot of damage than the regular 4 shots. Plus, you get to use the rest of the coins in your gun when the fight actually begins.
I'm too lazy to record this part, but you can kill him with just coin punches. You won't get a P-rank though. Fuck you, Hakita.
Also, you know that whole 3 skull door thing? Well, there's actually an easier way to get in. Tricks within tricks. You can also skip Gabriel's yapping, but for some reason, you need a weapon from Act 2. Yeah, you're just gonna have to deal with him and his church sermons. Honestly, I think P-ranks should be the last thing you do, so get all the weapons first, and then do the P-ranks after. 1, it will make getting a P-rank a lot easier with all the weapons, and 2, you can do the skips like with Gabriel. Now then, go. Get grinding. Welcome back. You look like a mess. Congratulations! You can now open the secret level of Gluttony. And most importantly, welcome to P-1. P-1, or P1, I'm just gonna call it P1, is a lot different compared to other secret levels. And the start already shows this. 1, the golden and gray metallic structure around you, and 2, this torch, and behind it is a bone-like structure with an endless void beneath. This is the spinal staircase. Walking down, you're greeted with peaceful and serene music. Despite the horrifying spine you're sliding down on, there's a part of you that feels hopeful. Until it starts to become distorted, unrecognizable.
and a mess of white noise is all that remains as you step down. In front of you is a door and a stand. Placing the torch down on said stand opens the door, and all that remains is ambience in a fleshy tunnel. Welcome to P1, the true test of Act 1. Before use the Flesh Prison, an annoying meat block that requires both patience and good movement to beat. The Flesh Prison isn't necessarily hard. In fact, in some ways, you can argue it's easier than Gabriel. Though the opposite is also true, since what makes the Flesh Prison so hard is good management. The Flesh Prison has 5 actions it can do. 1. Summon these guys. These little guys shoot off lasers at you, and when this green bar below the boss's health goes down, the Flesh Prison will then use those eyes to heal, and it heals a lot from this. The more eyes there are, the more it'll heal, and doing damage to the Flesh Prison will speed up the bar as well. So your goal whenever he summons these things are just to shoot them down. Thankfully, they do go down in a revolver shot, so just equip the marksman, and boom, you're good. In harder difficulties, he'll spawn mini Maurices that require 2 shots to kill. His next moves are attacks, and these attacks aren't hard to dodge, but do require good timing. First to this Orb Barrage. He just shoots a lot of projectiles in a circle, and it's pretty easy to deal with. You can parry or dodge them. Probably the least worrying out of its attacks. Next is the Minos Black Hole, it pretty much does the same thing. And finally, probably its most difficult attack, the Orbital Strike. It'll summon this circle around the area you're at, and after a bit, a giant beam of light will strike down. Which, honestly, isn't that bad, and that's for all these moves. But the problem comes from the fact that they often overlap with each other. So you're gonna have to dodge projectiles while running away from the black hole, moving away from the orbital strikes, and you also gotta do all of this while shooting the eyes as well so it doesn't heal. And even if you do get rid of all the eyes, you have a small window to unload everything into it before it summons them again. This fight is more of a marathon than a sprint. Unless you're speedrunning, but even if you're going for a P rank, it's still pretty difficult. Now once again, what do? That's right. Unless you said something else, or you said nothing, which you were supposed to answer. You made this awkward. You actually get a pretty good amount of time to shoot the eyes, so if you want to focus on dodging for a bit, it's okay to do it. Now I do have some tips for you besides getting good. First off, nuking. Nuking is a great way to get rid of a large number of eyes, and it also does good damage against the Flesh Prison. You can also use split coins to get rid of a large number of eyes, if you're not used to swapping weapons yet. Second, crouch jumping. There is no need to waste your dodge on every move, because they're there if you mess up in some sort of way. So you should really save them for attacks that you know you're just going to get hit by. And sometimes, dodges are barely even required, since crouch jumping gives you more than enough movement to get out of the way. And lastly, the thing I told you in the beginning, use the marksman. It's an excellent tool at getting rid of the eyes while you're focusing on dodging.
Alexa, show me my baby. Okay. There she is.
All in all, it's really not as difficult as it seems, and just requires some patience and good movement. Though this thing can be frustrating to fight against, especially for new players. The music playing doesn't help either. It's literally named Chaos. In fact, I'd say it does a better job of building up stress and impatience due to the amount of shit happening. I hate this song, but it does kinda slap, so I'll stick it in like B tier. Yeah, I got nothing. Anyway, after a bit of time, you finally kill the Flesh Prison, a boss that is meant to combine all your skills and put it to the test. What?
Free at last. Oh, Gabriel. Now dawns thy reckoning, and thy gore shall glisten before the temples of man. Creature of steel, my gratitude upon thee for my freedom. But the crimes thy kind have committed against humanity are not forgotten. And thy punishment is death.
Once again, Welcome to the true P-1. Yeah, the Flesh Prison was actually a build-up boss. Minos Prime is the true final boss of Act 1, and he will kick your ass. Minos Prime, formerly the Judge of Hell, is now this transparent being hell-bent on revenge on Gabriel. But first he starts off with you, as you're part of the machines that have ravaged through humanity and hell. I love this intro, as it shows Minos still has the compassion that allowed him to revive the Lust Layer, but it's also drowned out by his immense hatred for Gabriel. Now Minos Prime is basically a fighting character in an FPS. Now let me tell you a secret, and I think I can only say this because I'm better at the game than I used to be. He's actually not that hard. Judgment! Minos at this moment of time is the second hardest boss in the game, but when P3 comes out, probably third. And the first time I fought him, he definitely proved that statement to be right, taking me over an hour and 30 minutes to beat. He's just relentlessly aggressive and almost gives you no time to breathe, and his quick moves and big damage can easily kill you in seconds. But take a moment from the Flesh Prison. You know what I'm gonna say. These two words literally work for everything in life. Everything. Prove me wrong. Though you should also keep your eyes peeled, and most importantly, listen. Minos, while seeming to be a major pain to fight, is actually a lot more fair than other bosses, even more than V2, Gabriel, and the Flesh Prison, and that's due to Minos' stamina system, which are correlated to his signature moves, aka his moves where he shouts something and proceeds to kill you, like die, which indicates that you will die soon. He can only do these moves a certain amount of times before recovering, giving a very small but needed break in between his attacks. And here's the second big factor. He is way easier if you just stick to the ground. I know it's a bit of a change compared to you flying around in the other levels, but in my opinion, this is the most important part about fighting Minos. Ground Minos and Air Minos are two significantly different bosses. One has moves that are reactable and fair to dodge, and the other, you barely have any idea what's going on. And some of his moves are actually really easy to punish. Judgment! Where he'll track you no matter where you are, and do a dropkick. It actually has a pretty large parry window, and if he does have stamina, he will do a follow-up attack, but you just gotta keep your eyes peeled.
Thy end is now!
Is a chain attack that has 4 hits, but all you really do is just wait for the crashing noises and dodge or slide, which will damage you, so if you're skilled enough, do a dodge as soon as you parry.
Prepare thyself!
A 2-hit chain attack that is a lot slower than it seems, and also ends with Minos throwing a projectile. This projectile, which is a snake, has extreme tracking and will almost always get you. But once again, just parry it back. Doesn't even need to hit him. After all, parries give you stamina and health, so it's a free health drop. And lastly,
crush
and
die
are 2 dive attacks that create shockwaves. These are his most dangerous moves, and honestly you're probably going to get hit by these a lot more often than the other ones. Crush is easy as he just jumps in the air and lands straight down on you, so it's pretty easy to predict him that way. Die, however, is actually pretty hard to predict, since it just happens so fast, and it often catches you off guard a lot of times. But it does do less damage than Crush. Crush does like half your health, meanwhile Die does like a quarter. And honestly, most of the time, you're probably going to get hit, but he gives you a brief window to dodge and get out the way, which you can get a better dodge by just listening to his voice. His voice lines while being sick as hell are also his biggest downfall, even at half health, where he will yell, "Weak," and go into second phase. He'll be a lot more aggressive and fire more projectiles, but it's mostly the same thing, except he's glowing now. Judgment is a bit different as it'll now do the shockwave that damages you, but same as the... what was it called? Ah, thank you, Minos. Same as the end of that attack, if you just dodge as you parry, it's not a big deal. I know that sounds hard, but think of it as using the max pump charge. One of your fingers should always be on the dodge button, so as you hit parry, just press dodge right after. Also, if he does catch you in the air, say because you either jumped to dodge or got hit into the air, just immediately ground slam. It is way better to be on the ground as soon as possible than stay in the air for a bit. The time spent in the air can lead to death very quickly. Minos Prime is incredibly tough the first couple of times you fight him, but once you start seeing the obvious gaps in his fighting style, he becomes not only easier, but also way funner to fight. I mentioned this in my Elden Ring video, but there's this certain dance you do while fighting an amazing boss. It's this sequence of dodging, parrying, and attacking, which if done right, can make for an unforgettable experience. Also, his voice lines are such a genius way of making this boss more fair to fight, but also more iconic. Apparently this voice actor is in Dusk too, so I'm excited to hear him again. Oh yeah, did I mention the absolute banger of a theme he has? Order is genuinely one of the best video game tracks I've ever listened to, and perfectly encapsulates both tragedy and anger, especially when the Requiem leitmotif hits. Order is the perfect boss theme, and is a definitive top 3 song in this whole game. I say that, but there's probably going to be a track in like layer 8 or 9 that just completely blows me away. Well, right now it's top 3. Minos is a man who lost everything, and now the only thing he has left is vengeance. But as the fight continues, even this vengeance will soon be lost.
Forgive me, my children, for I have failed to bring you salvation from this cold, dark world.
Anyway, prepare to cry. Now, why is Minos like this anyway? The dude became a super ghost and also has a hole in his face. A stark difference compared to his human counterpart. Well, Minos has actually ascended beyond being a husk and has transformed into a new type of enemy, a prime soul. A prime soul occurs when the soul has so much willpower that it doesn't even require a vessel anymore. They are beings of pure will and are incredibly powerful, to the point where the angels of heaven will use any means of stopping one from forming, to which Minos' soul was put into the flesh prison, a special organism that acts more like a living machine. In order to make it as strong as it can be, they gave it both divine and hell energy, which explains the black holes and orbital strikes. The reason why Minos even began the Lust Renaissance in the first place was because he had felt that humanity had suffered long enough, especially for those whose only sin was love. After God disappeared by unknown means, the angels in heaven were lost. In this frantic panic, Minos took this opportunity to reform the Lust Layer, creating a new civilization. And with the efforts of the damned and Minos, the city grew even larger than ever, unrecognizable to what it originally was. However, after the council established order in heaven through might, they saw what Minos had done to the Lust Layer and were furious, seeing Minos' actions as blasphemy for freeing the sinners and going against God's will. So they sent Gabriel, the brightest of the angels, to deliver divine punishment. Minos, rather than fighting, tried to reason with him, but it was no use.
Mitchell, look, I can explain.
Gabriel, with no hesitation, immediately struck him down, no interest in listening to him at all. But with Minos' will being so strong to stand up to the heavens, the angels devised a plan to lock his soul inside a flesh prison, so it wouldn't form into a prime soul, and also appointing Gabriel as the new judge of hell in the same time span. So there Minos laid, trapped within the walls of his own corpse, and watched it tear down his beloved lair, cursing his own weakness and vowing to take revenge. Well, until we kill him, his last line being an apology to the sinners he couldn't protect or even have revenge for. King Minos' story is a tragedy. For the one time he sought peace in his whole life, it costed him everything. His design being a representation of his selflessness, not caring to be known, but to make people happy. It's also a reference to a Castlevania boss, and I refuse to pronounce the name.
Nucleus. Nucleus? Yes.
Oh, and we get the bombshell that God is just gone.
Alright, I gotta leave, okay?
John, we just started. Come on, man.
Listen, there's a lot to see in this life. Not wasting it here.
So the reason why everything is in such disarray is because God just dipped on everyone, and now the council in heaven are reinforcing his rules and are no different to tyrants. With the added knowledge of the secret testaments, it seems that God got tired of it all. But why? What was it that truly broke him? So then, let's wrap up with our final secret terminal. This one is actually not about God's disappointment with humanity. It actually explains how the elevators in hell work. The elevators in hell are an advanced, interconnected network that were made to transfer materials and tools between different areas. This explains why Gluttony and Minos' corpse are two separate places. In fact, when you go through the secret door in Gluttony, we actually get transported into the corpse of Minos. So the elevators are basically teleporters. The terminals are also explained a little bit on how, well, the terminals work. The terminals are able to transfer physical materials as information across each other through radio waves. With this, they can reconstruct the sent object, and this is how we get our variants for our weapons.
An early test that scientists used for the terminals involved transferring a vinyl record through them. The record was a single of Russ Morgan's orchestra, Were You Foolin', which is a song we hear every time we go near a terminal. After the Hell project was abandoned, the vinyl was the only piece of matter that transferred before the connection between the surface and terminals were cut off. The terminals now use the record as a way to lure machines into a sort of symbiotic relationship, but are only able to play short versions of the song for unknown reasons. Some researchers even joked that the terminals were too shy to sing. However, a rumor spread through mechanics that they actually heard a terminal playing a vocal section when there was no recording equipment around, to which this claim has not been verified. This reveals a lot about the game. 1, that humanity did in fact abandon the Hell project at some point, and 2, these things might be alive. Also, another thing to mention is the symbiotic relationship between a terminal and a machine. Almost like you. Actually, no, it literally is you. Well, what does the terminal gain in return? This also adds even more questions like, why did humanity abandon the Hell project? And are the terminals upgrading other machines like us? Or are they perhaps even going further? And all these questions will have to wait until Act 2. Well, unless you just look up the entire lore or buy the game. Hey, I'll take it. So concludes Act 1, a brilliant start to an amazing game. Ultrakill was actually the first official game I bought on my laptop, which I didn't even know this thing could run games in the first place. So it has a special place in my heart, and completely surpassed my expectations when I first played it. Now, there's a lot that I left out that I could have mentioned, like the cyber grind, which is honestly pretty easy to talk about, but I'll save that for Act 2. Though sadly, Act 2 will not be getting a video anytime soon, because the game is unfinished. And I learned while making this one, just how much that can change the video editing process of it. I mean, Hakita and the devs just randomly decided, hey, let's redesign the entirety of Act 1 and 2, even though Act 3 isn't even done yet. So Act 2 will have to wait until it's fully done, and I know it's fully done. But this video is finally out after 6 months, even though there's still so much more to talk about. Like, I really want to elaborate more on these newly added glass murals in Limbo, which are really important, but I can't talk about it right now. Honestly, this whole trilogy idea I had is probably going to take a couple years to complete. But hey, that's just the drawbacks of wanting to fully cover an early access game. Oh yeah, so remember that whole portion I made about Hakita's secret channel? Well, that's outdated now. He uploaded some new music and also changed the name of the channel. Piranesi or Piranesi. And also changed the name to Piranesi. There goes the sub-community within the sub-community. Man, that lasted like, what, an hour? Almost 2 hours. Also, I just want to take the time to thank Ichellor, Veteran Dragon, Feline Legion, and Unusual the Medic Main for allowing me to use their animations in this video. You've probably seen at least one of Ichellor's videos. They make really cool animations of the boss fights in the game, and they also dabble in a lot of other stuff too. And I highly recommend checking out Feline Legion as well. They basically take a deep dive into the final war and are really keen on showing how it might have gone down. It's super interesting to look at the side of humanity and also what it was probably like for them. Super underrated channel. And also thank you to Veteran Dragon for allowing me to use your imperfect love story animation. And yes, I had to redo the sound effects. They also made an Ultrakill animation called Ultrakill Anime, and it's probably the highest quality shitpost I've ever seen. I'll link their channels and Twitters in the description below, so please check them out. Sadly, I couldn't find Dragon's Twitter. I don't know if they have one, so I'll just link their Ko-Fi instead. I also just want to quickly thank the Ultrakill community for just being so dedicated to this game. This community, while having some very notable issues, is extremely passionate, and I can't help but admire that. The amount of videos that have helped me make this video in particular, and also just make me laugh, it's honestly cool and terrifying to see how just unhinged this community is. I mean, someone even took the time to sing My Way by Frank Sinatra in Minos' voice.
For what is a man? What has he got?
This isn't AI, this is actually someone doing this. Next are my 3 friends, Calvin, Aiden, and Alicia, who helped do some voiceovers for the dialogue. And I'm gonna be honest, I'm probably gonna ask you again, so get ready. Also, a quick thank you to the thumbnail artist Scrub. It's been quite a bumpy ride, hasn't it? And no, Josh, I'm not playing Guilty Gear. And last, but not least, thank you to Hakita and the devs for creating this game. I have a lot that I want to say about them, and also the whole indie game genre in general, but I feel like that should be something I should save for Act 3, you know, the finale. Anyway, if you want to see more videos or wait like a year for Act 2, subscribe. Currently, we are over 500 and nearing 600. And my goal for this year is to reach at least 1,000. Though with the upload schedule, I don't know about that. But let's make a deal. A very shaky deal. You give me views and subscribers, and I will try to give you more videos. How's that sound?
not good, because I suck at making promises. In all honesty, my goal is to make just the best videos I can at the moment. And as you can see, I think I did a pretty good job, especially compared to my last one. And with the help of you guys and your criticisms and your comments, honestly, thank you. Thank you for giving me the chance to create this, and I hope you tag along to see more of what I can do. I can't believe this took over half a year to make. I also have a second channel, so if you want more random and more grounded videos from me, there you go. That'll be all from me. Okay, yeah, you're gonna kill me by exploiting the floor at any...